The random jottings of Donald J. from Nelson in Pendle. Leaping figures chipping. Lanes around the demolished Leagram Hall. Haunting manifestation. Car engines have been known to cut out in this area without reason. The roads that skirted the hall is locally renowned for their ghostly figures who leap out from behind bushes, and strange mists and noises. The postmistress blamed the death of her dog on 3 shadowy figures that chased the canine, terrifying the animal so much it refused to eat. In the heart of the English countryside, nestled within the quaint village of Chipping, there stood a majestic estate known as Leagram Hall. In its prime, the hall had been a grand testament to architectural splendor, its towering turrets and elegant gardens a sight to behold. But time had not been kind, and the hall eventually met its fate, crumbling into ruins in the 1960s, leaving behind only memories and whispered tales. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the lanes that wound their way around the remnants of Leagram Hall, a sense of unease settled upon those who dared to venture near. The locals spoke of strange occurrences, car engines sputtering and dying for no apparent reason, eerie mists that would materialize out of thin air, and the unsettling sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. But it was the leaping figures that sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest souls. As night descended, these ghostly apparitions would emerge from behind overgrown bushes, their movements both ethereal and unsettling. They danced and leapt, their forms illuminated by the pale light of the moon, casting elongated shadows upon the worn cobblestones. It was said that the figures seemed to be reliving moments of revelry from the hall's long-lost grandeur, forever frozen in a spectral waltz. Among the villagers, the postmistress, Mrs. Edith Withers, had her own harrowing tale to tell. Her faithful companion, a loyal dog named Jasper, had met a tragic end near the ruins. One misty evening, Jasper had bounded ahead along the winding path, his tail wagging with exuberance. But his joy was short-lived, as 3 shadowy figures materialized from the fog, their forms indistinct yet undeniably sinister. With a terrified yelp, Jasper had turned and fled, his tail now tucked between his legs. Mrs. Withers had arrived just in time to witness the tail end of the eerie encounter. Jasper had cowered at her feet, whimpering in fear, his eyes wide with terror. The postmistress could swear she saw a malevolent glint in the eyes of the leaping figures, and their haunting laughter seemed to echo long after they had disappeared into the night. From that moment on, Jasper was never the same. He refused to eat, his once playful demeanor replaced by a haunted and anxious gaze. Despite Mrs. Withers' best efforts, the poor dog's health deteriorated rapidly, until one fateful night, he passed away in his sleep. The postmistress was convinced that the malevolent spirits that had chased Jasper were responsible for his untimely demise, and her heart was heavy with grief and anger. As the years rolled on, the legends of the leaping figures continued to grip the village of Chipping. Locals and visitors alike would gather in hushed tones to recount their own eerie encounters near the ruins of Leagram Hall. Some claimed to have felt an icy touch on their shoulders. Others swore they heard distant laughter carried on the wind. And so, the demolished Leagram Hall and its leaping figures remained an enigma, a place where the boundary between the living and the spectral seemed to blur. The memories of grand parties and splendid gatherings may have faded, but the haunting manifestations ensured that the legacy of the hall would endure, forever etched into the fabric of Chipping's history. By Donald J.